Dude, I don't think I ever see you more patriotic than like 3 times a year. Part number
All
one
right, yeah,
is
what are the 3 times?
anything that has to do with the Olympics. So like Olympic Games, summer or winter. I mean, more so summer, I think, because like swimming and all the things that we like to watch are in swimming, basketball, sometimes even, it wasn't baseball in there at this point, or is it coming
Yeah,
back?
I think it's true, like, I would watch curling if America was in
Yeah,
it,
right.
so
So Summer Olympics and the Winter Olympics will count it, even though we don't really care as much about the sports. Number two, 4th of July, big day for you.
yeah,
Big day for you up the loop.
I'm a big American guy.
And number three is the Ryder Cup tournament, which only happens every 2 years. So like we only get Patriotic Jack like twice a year, maybe, and then sometimes if we're lucky, we get it 3 times a year when the Ryder
Well,
Cup happens.
let me clarify, I'm a pretty patriotic guy.
Yeah, I
Like,
would say
I
that. I
I would
mean,
say I'm a above average patriotic guy,
the World Cup is
but
happening this summer.
when you see me peak is when those events happen. That's when
Yeah,
I really get into it.
yeah. Athletics are a huge deal when it comes to Jack's patriotism. The World Cup is happening this summer. It's going to be the same thing, even though
Oh, yeah.
United States soccer is just horrendous. Um,
No, I think you're right in, to your Ryder Cup point, one of the crazier things is I don't even really like watching most of the guys on this USA
nope,
team
nope.
until they put red, white, and blue on. And then
Yep.
I was telling my father how much I was excited to watch Patrick Cantlay play golf. I have never once said that in my entire life. And on the flip side, most of those guys on that Europe team are my favorite golfers in the world right now
Yep.
until they put up Europe colors.
Yep.
And then I literally could not root for them at all.
Yep. I mean, I love a lot. I'm the same way. I think like personally, I really like Scotty Scheffler. I just think that he's really cool. I hate Bryson DeChambeau. I don't like him. You know what I mean? Like
I
him and
can't
I
watch
just
him
like
either.
live golf for
But
me. Just it doesn't work out. But watching him smash 367-yard drives with the Team USA colors is pretty damn cool. Um, on the contrary, I like Victor Hovland. Him pulling out on Sunday and not being able to play and giving Europe a half point is something that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But that changes some perspective for me. I think I'm the same way. I mean, look, this Ryder Cup was one that was kind of a tale of 2 days, if you really look at it. Days 1 and 2, Team Europe dominated. And I want to get your thoughts on why they dominated the team groups in a little bit. But day 3 is really where the story comes from. Because talk about a team just rallying back. I mean, we thought personally, I thought that Team USA had the better individual players, right? Guys who were probably going to win in their one-on-one matchups were on Team USA. Scotty Scheffler obviously had the edge over Rory McIlroy. He's been the best player in the world, and Rory's been number 2. DeChambeau, right? Patrick Cantlay, right? Xander Schauffele, Cam Young, who played fantastic golf all week, Colin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, like a bunch of these guys who can really build off the crowd and give you a good performance on Sunday. The question mark for me is what happened on Friday and Saturday, because they got absolutely worked and they only had to win one game, it seemed like, that entire tournament in order for them to set themselves up for success on Sunday.
yeah, look, I think it's true, right? Team Europe played great team golf, and that's what's going to win you the Ryder Cup. And the U.S. played great individual golf, which left you right on the doorstep.
But point short,
And
yeah.
I think what jumped off the page to me immediately was Europe is small.
Mm-hmm.
These guys all come from pretty much the same area of the world. So growing up, a lot of these guys have been playing together or in tournaments against each other and on the same teams for 10, 12, 15, 20, 25 years, which means that they are not only great teammates, but also very good friends. I mean, you look at Shane Lowry and Rory McIlroy
Right.
are great friends. Like
Right.
their kids grow up together. Tommy Fleetwood and Tyrrell Hatton are great friends. They've been playing together for years, right? So there are groups of guys on this roster. And Tommy Fleetwood and Rory McIlroy are incredibly good friends, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
So there are partnerships on this Europe team where you can be like, okay, we're going to go beat them with the power of friendship. Like they will. Well, these guys know how to work with each other. They've been doing it for 20 years now, right?
Fun ball, yeah.
But it could be these Americans' first time playing together.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that definitely plays. And again, that's not an excuse. It's just I think why they won, why they were so good, is because they know how to work with each other better than the United States do. And it was apparent throughout. I mean, alternate shot, they killed us. That's something that you need to have great teamwork for. But like the Americans, a lot of them don't really play together. You're kind of throwing together a hodgepodge group of guys, which is, I mean, they're great players
Hmm.
individually. They're great
Hmm.
players, but they haven't been playing with each other for 20 years at this point. So it's just like that level of camaraderie is not quite the same as it is on the European team. Uh, like for example, like Scotty Scheffler has been friends with Tom Kim for 15 years now, but he's
Yep.
not on the Ryder Cup roster, right? So
Right.
like you don't have that kind of level of teamwork.
Well,
And
but
I think that's
but
what
if
went
I'm going
into
to push back on that, he has been that close with Sam Burns. So I
but
question. Okay,
did they
go
play
ahead.
together?
They didn't. That which is
Exactly.
something that I
Right.
was going to question. So I was going to say, as much as I do agree with your point about Team Europe and the fact that they have closer bonds, connections, these types of things, especially when you look at guys like Shane Riley, like Rory McIlroy, who have clearly been friends for a long period of time. Do you assess any blame in the first 2 days to Keegan Bradley for not switching up the groups as much as he did? Because it kind of felt like he trotted a lot of the same groups out there. Like Harris English and Colin Morikawa went out and got smashed 2 times in a row, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Is that
I get it, but I think that Colin Morikawa and Harris English are two of the guys on the bottom of the US's roster,
I definitely
right?
agree.
So
100%.
like I think that Keegan Bradley, after that first, like we lost 3 out of the first 4 matches. After that first session, he was playing defense and he was putting out duos that he thought were going to run away with certain matches. Goodness.
Wow. Okay, go on.
Everything okay in the Penders
Yeah,
camp?
I don't know. Man, maybe an earthquake just came through. I'm not sure what the hell that was, but we'll look
Um,
at it in a second.
so after that first session, I think that Bradley was playing a lot of defense, right? And
Okay.
he was saying, all right, we need to get a point with this group. That's why you saw Scotty and Bryson play together,
Yep.
right? We need to get points with this certain group. You saw
Yep.
Cameron Young and Justin Thomas, who were your two best players, in my opinion,
Yep.
and Patrick Cantlay play in a group together, and they won a
Hmm.
point, right? I just don't think that all those groups came through when they had to, which is why you ended up seeing guys like Morikawa and English, because you're taking a point here and you're taking your chances on those guys to get a push, but you need that 1 point. And I think that that's what I honestly don't think that he did a horrible job managing this Ryder Cup. We lost by 1.5 points,
Okay.
right? But um, I just think that when you see the U.S. playing at its best is when you see groups like Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth, who have been best friends for 10 years, right? That's when you see us playing at our best. And we just didn't have that during the group play this year. And I think that that comes with keeping the same group of guys year in, year out. This Europe team had one change from the last year. US had 4 rookies, right? So maybe building on the next Ryder Cup, maybe you'll see a little bit more of that. Hopefully you'll see a little bit more of that. But I think that day 3 kind of gave you some inspiration on like, okay, if we're close, we're probably going to get it on Sunday. We just have to get close.
Right. And I think that's right. But I also think that from Team USA's perspective, like you weren't bringing Jordan Spieth to the Ryder Cup this year,
No,
just the way
you
that he
couldn't.
played.
Yeah,
Right. Like and that was a big question mark as to like who was going to be on the rookies. And I honestly think that the rookies performed pretty well. Like I brought up Cam Young the other
he was our
second
best
ago.
player.
He probably played the best out of anybody on the roster. I agree.
He won 3 matches.
Do you regret if you're Keegan Bradley not playing in the Ryder Cup and taking a spot away from a guy like Harris English or Colin Morikawa, or do you kind of rock with the decision that you made to not play there?
I don't know. I haven't really been around long enough to watch a lot of guys on the Ryder Cup who are playing in it. Like Zach
Yeah,
Johnson didn't play in it.
right.
Nick Donald has never played in it, and he's been
The
there for
captain
14
forever.
years,
Yep.
right? So I can't really speak on that. I don't know if he would have been better than one of those guys. Chances
Yep.
are he probably would have been the same and also not been there to be able to coach as well as he did, in my opinion. So I think that if you're the U.S., you're looking to bring him back next year and have some form of continuity that you can build off of instead of starting from scratch every time,
Hmm.
because it's just not working.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and there was a little bit of criticism about not bringing more live players over. I don't necessarily think that that's accurate. I think that he picked a pretty good roster if I had to say anything.
Yeah, I
The
mean, like, who
only
are the guys you're bringing over? Dustin Johnson? Probably not.
Patrick Reed,
Yeah.
maybe like a Brooks Koepka, someone like that, who honestly hasn't played fantastic golf this year, especially in the majors. Um, so here's the last question that I have about the Ryder Cup is there was a big storyline about the United States fans. Questions about comments, things that they were saying while players were over the ball, critical of the European team, and it clearly got under the skin of a few of the guys on that team the way that they responded to Rory McIlroy, Shane Lowry, was to make huge plays down the stretch and eventually win the Ryder Cup. Do you see any issue with the way that the U.S. fans acted on the course this weekend, or do you just think that that's kind of been blown out of proportion and there isn't really that much of an issue?
Yeah, I don't think it's an issue.
Okay.
The Ryder Cup is the one time where you can let emotion out, both on
Hmm.
the course and as fans. And that's something that draws a lot of attention towards it, and also is the
Gotcha.
reason why the players love doing it so much.
Right.
So like on one side of the coin, if it didn't go their way, you could be like, okay, well, like let's say Europe, right? Let's say Europe lost. They could
Hmm.
be like, oh, the fans were in our head and they were saying all these things. And now that they've won, they can be like, yeah, we had a sick moment with all these fans yelling at us and we still did it, right? That's cool. That's part of it. I think that's awesome. Now, like if it was coming from a place of like obviously there's a line, right? Like it can't be anything racial. It can't be anything about any orientation or anything about these people's, families and livelihood, right?
Which I
But
think it
you can
was getting pushed to that point is like
right.
kind of the pushback aspect.
I think there are certain I again, even within like the family aspect, if you're Rory McIlroy, you have to expect those comments coming. You have to.
Yeah.
It's just part of the game. And I think that if you're Europe, you do the same thing when you're hosting. You do the same thing. It's part of the home field advantage. It's also in New York. There's definitely less aggressive places than New York City to have a golf tournament.
Yeah. It's true.
Um,
It's true.
let's talk Victor Hovland real quick, just to wrap this up.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
look, if you can't play and you're injured and you have to pull out, I understand, right? I get it. First of all, I think splitting the half point is ridiculous, but
Okay.
I understand if you have to sit out, you have an injury, you have an right, whatever. If that's the case, there's no reason why you should be on the 18th green completely celebrating and partying your ass off like you just performed and did not take your half a point. One half a point on Sunday would have made a ridiculous margin in that battle. 100% would have made a huge difference. And Victor Hovland being a guy who kind of has this reputation about him where he doesn't perform on Sundays
Hmm.
is a huge advantage, right? If we
Yeah.
have one half of a point, the United States are absolutely still fighting and have a chance of probably not winning, but at least tying. And even being like they retained instead of won is a huge mental victory, right?
Right. I agree.
So I don't have a problem with you missing it if you have to, but you shouldn't be out there completely showing signs of being healthy and being part of the group and celebrating like you just did part of it.
Hmm.
You should
Yeah.
have you should really be recovering.
I agree with that. I don't necessarily think that it was anything intentional, to be honest with you, because he pulled out with an 11-point lead on Sunday, right? So or it was like an 11 to 3 point lead. So I think that like in retrospect, you can look at it and be like, okay, maybe they shouldn't have agreed to a half point. What would you propose in that situation if it comes down to it on a Sunday, like it kind of did this year, right? So like you have the 14 to 14 point um,
A-
explanation. Like what what
Again,
what
like
what what would you do there?
I don't care about the half point. That's fine. I'm totally fine with all of that.
Okay.
Just don't like act like you were like just don't be on the 18th green showing all signs of being perfectly fine. Don't do
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Fair
If
enough.
you're injured to the point where you can't play, then you're injured to the point where you can't do anything. Especially if you're playing for your continent. But you shouldn't be out there celebrating and hooting and hollering. That's ridiculous to me.
All right. All right. I don't necessarily disagree. I think that when it comes to the Team USA fans at Bethpage, there were some moments and instances where they did cross the line. That being said, like you said, it is a tournament where you are supposed to be able to give it to the fans, and the fans are supposed to give it back to the golfers. And home court advantage is something that you're going to see. Right. So I don't necessarily think I have to touch on it too much. I think that it's being touched on. There have been apologies issued. The PGA has backed the fans, and that is what it is, right? So we
Yeah.
move forward with that.
Apologize, move on. Crowds are going
Yeah,
to get hostile. It is what it is.
agreed. Um, and I just think that it's such a big deal this year, just because of the current political climate, some other stuff, and then just the fact of the matter that it was hosted on U.S. soil this year versus being in Europe, which is totally fine, right? But look, it is a really fun tournament every year, and I think that's the biggest takeaway that I have is even if the United States didn't win on Sunday, the fact that they made a push towards winning and made a push towards making it interesting on Sunday when everybody on Saturday and Friday were like, well, tomorrow's just going to be a consolation. Like, it doesn't matter, right? I think that was really cool. So that being said, I mean, congratulations to Team Europe first and foremost. You've retained the Ryder Cup. 2 years later, we will be going to Europe, and we will see how that goes. Will Team USA show up? Will they not? Who's going to be captain? All those types of questions will be answered later on this year.
And actually, before we move on real quick,
Yeah,
the golf was phenomenal.
golf was
Especially
great.
from Team Europe. I mean,
Yep.
they were just lights out. United States was shooting 4 to 5 under, and Europe was consistently just killing that.
Yeah.
And that's a huge margin.
Yeah.
And it was fun. I mean, they were making great golf shots as much as it pained the U.S. to watch. Like, they were just – John Rahm's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Until Sunday,
Yep.
right? Like, Tommy Fleetwood was lights out the entire tournament. It was great golf. And it left me being like, we need more match play events to watch.
Agreed.
Even if it's not in this same atmosphere, watching match play golf is just like a different level of fun to the viewer.
Just a question about match play golf really quickly. Would you consider changing the FedEx Cup system to a match play system where people at the end of the season, instead of playing stroke play, would, you'd have seeding and then you would play against each other, like the 1 seed versus the 8 seed in a match play tournament down the wire towards the end of the golf season? Or do you think that's too much of a change up for that end of season tournament?
I think it's tough, right? Because
Okay.
the FedEx playoffs there's 3 rounds,
Yep.
3 weekends, and every
Yep.
weekend you get smaller.
Right.
I think if you're going to do that, you have to do it on the final weekend.
Agreed.
Where you only have 16 golfers, but then
Agreed.
you have 16
Down to 8
to 8
Yeah.
to 4 to, but then you're left with a 1 versus 1 on the last day. It's kind of tough. Like, it's not a team format, so if you're doing that, then on the last day you have 1 matchup left, and then I don't know if you could make it work, but in theory, that would definitely be a fun way to watch the FedEx playoffs end. I just don't know how logistically you could pull that off.
Okay.
But I mean, in your
fair.
answer, I would love to see it. I just don't think that you can do it.
Right. And I think the way that you would figure that out is you would maybe have other groups go out. Like, if you lose, you continue to play in like sort of a loser's bracket kind of thing to continue to earn money towards it. But
but then no one cares, right?
Right.
There's no
right. It's definitely a big question mark. I agree with you. But I think you're right. I think that match play golf is actually super fun to watch. And, it just makes it so that every hole matters, right? Like,
Every hole
not blowing
matters.
up on something like takes you completely out of the tournament. Every single hole, there is something at stake.
Or even on the other side of the coin, in stroke play, blowing up on a hole can completely destroy you. But if you blow up on a hole in match play, you just go to the next hole and it's fine.
Just console. Yeah, agreed. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some more stuff later on. Hopefully, that's at least what I would hope.
Also,
with match
lie
play
is awesome because it makes for every golf shot is just incredible. Fix your lie and get under it. It's so awesome.
Agreed.
Which is something that most people probably don't know about the Ryder Cup. In a lot of circumstances, you can prefer lie, and you can like kind of fix your golf ball lie, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm excited. I mean, the Ryder Cup was really good this year. We'll continue to cover it going forward, and we'll talk more about it. This was also a pretty interesting week for football. I mean, look, you and I have been on a bit of a cold streak the past 2 weeks when it comes to picks. We both went 1-4 this week. Again, I don't really necessarily feel like any of our picks were super outlandish. It just kind of happened to be not our week this week. Are we going to learn anything?
We never learn.
Yeah, never. Probably not.
This is our 3rd NFL season doing this. We never learn, and it's because we refuse to.
Correct. So we're excited to continue doing this in a little bit. Are there any games that you really want to touch on before we, talk about some other stuff within the class? I don't even know. I guess the biggest game.
I think we just move. Like, Ravens Chiefs even wasn't really a game.
That was the game that I was going to say. Yeah.
Oh, Packers Cowboys was phenomenal.
Okay, we'll talk about that later though.
That a little bit, but I don't think there was anything. Patriots put belt to ass, and that was fun.
That was pretty fun. I will agree. There were a lot of blowouts this week. And I mean, like, just some strange games all around. It wasn't super interesting. What?
I will ask you real quick. Do you think, obviously last week the Panthers beat the Falcons 30-0.
Yep.
Shut them out. Do you think the Patriots answered a lot of questions this week? Is this kind of what you were looking to see from them?
I think the Patriots defense did. Look, the Carolina Panthers had more total yards of offense than the Patriots offense. And they somehow only ended up with 13 points.
Yeah,
which is
well, we
pretty
returned
ridiculous.
a ton of punts, like all the
Correct.
way back.
Correct. That's a good point. So our special teams unit completely showed up. I watched this entire game and I was grinning ear to ear watching the Patriots play because it was one of those weeks where it's like, are we back? We might kind of be back. I mean, we're playing the Bills next week, but hey, everybody's got to lose at some point. It could be to us.
And it has
I,
been before.
Correct. And I've still continued to be impressed with the way that Drake May has played. He's used his legs really well. Our run game was not horrible against the Panthers. It has been horrible in weeks past.
We didn't
Stephon
fumble.
Diggs, we didn't fumble. Stephon Diggs looks like an A1 receiver, right? Hunter Henry continues to catch touchdown passes. Like, there are things from this game that you can take away and be like, okay, we're moving in the right direction. Now, that being said, you do play probably the best team in the AFC next week. That'll be your tester if you had to ask me, because I think that you could basically beat the Panthers if you do anything, because they're going to beat themselves.
Yeah, did you see the quote from the Jets after they lost? Breece Hall said he said, "Some teams shoot themselves in the foot, we shot ourselves in the head."
I did not see that. But they
Jets
are
in
0-4.
a bad spot.
They are 0-4, so that does make a lot of sense. If we're going to talk about the Carolina Panthers, though, I think that one of the biggest question marks that I have about this game is about Bryce Young. And this is a question that I've had for a very long time when it comes to rookie quarterbacks, especially in the past few drafts. If we're doing a little bit of a draft retrospective here, do you think that it's better to have rookie quarterbacks come in and start, or do you think it's better to sit them as rookies and let them learn a little bit? So let me just run you through a couple of negatives, a couple of positives, and then we're going to talk about it, like, just because of, there's a wide margin of whether or not these number one overall picks come in and be successful. I mean, on the negative side, you have JJ McCarthy right now. He's hurt again, hasn't looked fantastic in the first round, came in, this was his rookie season, played well week 1, played not so well week 2, is going to be sitting for a little bit behind Carson Wentz. I think that's the best thing for him. Cam Ward is 0-4. He is one of the lowest QBRs in league history at the moment. He plays for the Tennessee Titans. They have no offensive line, which is another question that you could ask when it comes to these rookie quarterbacks in general. Bryce Young, a guy that you've seen flashes from now 2 years in the NFL. 3 years. This is year 3 for him, right? 3 years in the NFL, you've seen flashes of him being a good quarterback, but the fact of the matter is he's been at the bottom tier of quarterbacks for the entirety of his career. Anthony Richardson got benched by a guy who could not win games in New York for 3 years on a $100 million contract, gets over to the Colts, and now Daniel Jones is the starter. AR-15 doesn't seem like he has a way to get into that starting quarterback role anymore after being disappointing his first few years. Will Levis, another Titans quarterback drafted in the second round, puts mayo in his coffee, so I can see why they sat him because of that. But other than that, he was a really bad quarterback for a few years. Mac Jones, a quarterback who was a Pro Bowler as a rookie quarterback and is now a backup on the San Francisco 49ers. Wow, thinking about baseball already. San Francisco 49ers. And is kind of having a little bit of a resurgence this year, but looked really poor in his third year with the Patriots, and then moving on forward has now become a perennial backup. And then guys who just get drafted to the Browns in general, like Baker Mayfield was one of those guys. Johnny Manziel was one of those guys. I mean, Baker's turned it around, we obviously know, in Tampa Bay. So are these examples more about the rookie quarterback? Is it more about the system that they get drafted to? Is it more about the offensive line? And is it more about building confidence? I think these are all questions when it comes to rookies. But what do you think your take is on rookie quarterbacks coming in and starting?
Well, I think that there's so many examples of guys who have done this and were thrown into the fire and it didn't work. A guy like Sam Bradford comes to mind, right? Obviously, You said Baker Mayfield struggled in his first couple seasons, and I don't really know if it was his fault. Sam Darnold struggled in his first couple seasons, and that's because he was thrown right into the fire, right? So sometimes it just takes going to a new team and not having that pressure of being the guy anymore that unleashes these quarterbacks' full potentials, just like what we're seeing in Daniel Jones right now. But I think that there are a lot of negative examples, and I think that it has to do with whether or not it's a development piece.
Okay.
AR-15 is a guy that you drafted as a guy who you knew was super young. It was going to take him a couple of years to figure it out.
Yep.
but you threw him into the fire and didn't really let him sit. So I think it's a really case-to-case kind of thing.
Okay.
But for the most part, quarterbacks in the NFL never walked in on day one and were starters until recently. So it's a pretty recent trend that we've seen that happen. And it's failed a lot. And a lot of the guys that you see just don't really end up working out. The problem is the ones who you do see it from, where they walk on day one and are the guy,
Hmm.
have very long and successful careers in the NFL. Like, there's equally as many positive examples in the NFL right now. Jaden Daniels won Offensive Rookie of the Year last year. He's the guy. Joe Burrow is on his way to be, if he can stay healthy, being up there with the best quarterbacks in Bengals history, which is actually a pretty good bunch of guys. Justin Herbert has been the guy since day one. Bo Nix walked in last year and made sure that he was the guy from day one.
Hmm.
Drake May on the
Yep.
Patriots. Josh Allen on the flip side, he walked in on day one. It took him a couple years, and now he's the best quarterback in the NFL. You can even look back on guys like Peyton Manning. He sucked in his first season with the Colts. He was garbage. And then he became one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So I think that there are successful examples, and I think a lot of these guys put these people out on the field with the idea of they are going to be our guy from day one, and then they prove whether or not they can do it. Now, if you want to talk about the positives of guys who have sat, Aaron Rodgers sat for a couple years behind Brett Favre. Patrick Mahomes sat behind
Alex Smith.
Alex Smith in
Yep.
Kansas City. Tom Brady sat behind Drew Bledsoe, right? So, I mean, there are examples of sitting back and being like, okay, we're going to see if you have it, especially the later you look in history. But I think in modern day NFL, all of these coaches put these guys out that they drafted because they're going to know whether or not it's their guy for the first 8 weeks of the season.
Well,
I
it's
think
also like they want a guy that's going to save their job. You know, these guys who are drafting in the first round, like they're drafting quarterbacks that they're praying and hoping are going to pan out because they need some sort of something to cling to continue to be paid as a head coach. And then
Well,
if you lose, you could also point to them and be like, "Oh, well, we have a rookie quarterback. Don't worry about it. He's going to develop. We'll be fine."
yeah,
Right?
I think
Brian
that's
Daboll's been doing that for 4 years in New
I think
York.
that's sometimes the case, but if it like Justin Herbert he had Brendan Staley as his head coach.
Yeah, and he
for
kept him there for
years.
3 years. Yeah.
But that was not because of Herbert.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. That was because of the Chargers management. I mean, Drake May was a rookie last year, and Gerard Mayo got fired.
Yeah.
So I see your point to an extent, but I
Mhm.
think that really what these front office guys are looking at are, okay, this guy's available. We're going to know if he's our guy from year one.
Yeah.
And if not, then we're going to kind of have a couple years where we're going to suck. But the examples of it being positive have worked out really well from what we've seen. So it's hard to say whether or not you should sit them or start them. My answer is it's something you should know by the end of training camp. And if you
Okay.
don't, that's when you have a serious problem.
Okay. Fair enough. Let me bounce another question off of you when it comes to this because I'm gonna bounce some quarterbacks and you're gonna tell me whether or not they're a boom or a bust coming off of their starting week one type of scenario. And it's gonna be tough because these guys are a little bit more in the middle. But a question that I have for you is we toss around the label generational talent all the time. When is the last time a generational quarterback talent panned out from week one? Is it
Probably
Andrew Luck?
I would say it's Joe Burrow.
Okay.
He missed his whole first season, broke his
Yep.
leg, and then he came out and went to the Super Bowl in his second. I would say Joe
Fair.
Burrow.
Okay. Sounds good. That was a good answer. Here we go. We're going to talk boom or bust for question mark quarterbacks who either started their first game or started a game their rookie season. Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I would say bust here. He was drafted in the same class as Justin Herbert. Obviously, Lawrence does have a playoff win. Justin Herbert doesn't. But when you look at those two quarterbacks, you know who's the guy and who still has to prove some things. And if you're in year 5 and you don't even really have like a definitive I'm the guy outlook, you're probably not a boom. So I'm going to go bust for Trevor Lawrence.
Okay. CJ Stroud.
Stroud's a guy that you just don't really know, I think. I mean, you've seen what he's capable of. We've talked about it 4 out of the 5 shows that we've done so far.
Mm-hmm.
But you haven't seen it from him since his rookie year. I think he's had a lot happen around him, and he's still incredibly young. So for me, I can't say bust yet, but he certainly has it.
Okay. I think he may have boomed his rookie season, which is one of the biggest question marks about him. But moving forward, we will continue to talk about CJ Stroud because he is the biggest story with that Houston Texans team and like what went wrong for the past 3 years. A guy who's bounced around a bunch, Justin Fields.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Jets quarterback and you're 0-4, it's really hard to say boom, right?
Yeah.
It felt like in Chicago, he kind of was starting to figure it out right before he was booted. Didn't play at all in Pittsburgh last year. He's been good from a solo perspective on the Jets, but they haven't won. I think I'm going to say bust just because it's going to be so hard for him to. I think that he is a talented quarterback,
Mhm.
but he's never going to play on a team that will be surrounded by good pieces or where he will be able to figure it out and get them in the playoff hunt. So I'm going to say bust for Justin.
Okay. Let's talk about his quarterback replacement next, Caleb Williams.
Yeah, Caleb Williams, you can't say is a bust because
Agreed.
he was a Bears rookie.
Yep.
You just can't say it. He's looked honestly pretty
Way
incredible
better.
through the first 4
Way
weeks of
better.
the
Yep.
season. But his expectations were so high coming into the league that he also hasn't exceeded those yet. So
Mhm.
I would say on trending towards boom, but haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb Williams is another one of those guys that had the generational quarterback label, right? So you were looking for him to probably do more than he has, and that's taken away from the fact that he just threw for like 290 yards 2 weeks ago. You know
Yeah,
what I
but
mean?
that
Like, that
might be
just is
our
what it
fault
is.
too. Like he's still a
Agreed.
rookie quarterback on
Agreed.
the Chicago Bears. So the fact that he's even creating noise is better than they've had in years.
Yeah, and the
Mitchell
last
Trubisky also got a playoff win. So like
correct.
let's
Let's
figure it
tone it
out.
down. Yeah. The last two guys both sat a little bit their rookie season and came in around like week 10 or 11, I want to say. Jordan Love.
Jordan Love sat for 2 seasons behind Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
He's been in the league for kind of a while. He's another guy that I think hasn't really had the tools to boom yet, but
Okay.
every year they get consistently better with him at the helm. So I would also put him in that trending towards boom category, but we just haven't reached it yet.
All right. And the last one here that I have listed is Michael Penix Jr.
Michael Penix Jr. is honestly kind of a really hard guy to judge, right? He went in the first round. I think he went 9th overall of the Falcons. But before he went to the college football playoff, no one was really looking at him as a guy that was first round potential starting
Well,
quarterback
because
in
he's
the
like
college football.
24. He was 24 coming
He's
into the
old.
NFL.
He's old. He's left-handed, which obviously isn't that big a deal, but people talk about it.
Okay.
So I think you expected him to kind of be a bust, to be honest with you, and I think that he's exceeded that expectation. He's at least exceeded my expectations. I don't ever think that we'll see him as like the guy as like a big boom. I think he'll just be a quarterback in the NFL for a little bit. So I mean, I think mid is my rating that I'm going to give him.
All right. Fair. That was a really good talk. We're going to continue with the kind of boomer bust label, and we're going to do a little bit of an overreaction right here when we talk about the 2025 NFL draft.
Actually, I got a couple guys I want to throw at you about these because
Please
I know
do.
that we did a lot of NFL draft talk going into it. And I mean, before the season, we talked a ton. We had a whole episode themed about one of these guys, and he's the one that I'm going to throw at you first.
Mm-hmm.
About a month and a half ago, we did an episode about Travis Hunter, talking about whether or not he was going to be good. As you mentioned, was in the forefront of the media, won the Heisman last year, picked by the Jaguars at the 3rd overall pick, but he's played less than 25% of snaps and only has 13 receptions for 118 yards this season. Are we concerned about his output, or do you think he'll be all right?
I'm definitely concerned about that 25% stat, right? Because the biggest thing when it comes to Travis Hunter was talking about his defensive versatility. And him playing under 25% of your defensive snaps every single game is something that you can look at and be like, that's not what we drafted him for. We didn't draft Travis Hunter to be a wide receiver 1. I'm sorry. He's not better than Brian Thomas Jr. He is a good receiver. I think that with the targets that he's had and some of the games that he's had and who's throwing him the ball, he hasn't looked fantastic offensively. But that being said, he was never big enough to be your wide receiver 1. You drafted him for his two-way potential. And it seems like, especially with some of the comments between him and the head coach, Cohen, there is some sort of a mental disconnect, a gap there between him and the coaching staff when it comes to how many snaps he's getting on offense and how many snaps he's getting on defense. And I do think that's concerning if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So are you saying boom or bust with him?
At the moment, I think he's a bust. I think that going into the season, we kind of had him pegged as a guy that we weren't stoked about, right? Like he seemed like a guy who had the most bust potential out of any of the surefire prospects at the top of the draft. Now, that being said, he has shown flashes, but flashes offensively doesn't justify you being a third overall pick. Because if you were drafting him to just be a receiver, Teteroa McMillan was 4 picks behind and has looked really good with a worse quarterback in Carolina, in my opinion. So if you're going to figure this out for Travis Hunter, you have to get him on the field defensively. And he can't be getting cooked defensively when he is on the field. I haven't watched a ton of Jacksonville Jaguars film or games.
Nor do you have any reason to.
Correct. And people who have been watching the games have said that he's been doing okay, which is fine, right? Like he's kind of developing. Is he a fantasy football guy that you should pick up? No. Is he going to boom offensively? Probably not. But the biggest thing with him was, like I said, that two-way potential. So can he realize that two-way potential? At the moment, I'm saying no, the way that he's being coached.
All right, boom or bust on this next guy. He had a breakout week this week with 140 yards and a touchdown. Ashton Genty.
I'm all in. I think he's going to boom here. I think that this offense has very little to do other than just hand him the ball 20 times a game. And when they do that, he looks explosive and versatile, and he's doing it behind a really poor offensive line. I think that he has a ton of boom potential if they just hand him the rock. It's the same kind of way with Bijan Robinson, where you drafted a guy in the first round and you expected him to take the helm, then you only gave him the rock 8 times a game, right? Like you're not going to get that type of production out of a guy who is a generational talent at running back if you don't hand him the ball off. Do I think Ashton Genty is as good as Bijan? No. But I think that he could be better than Josh Jacobs for this Las Vegas Raiders team if you just give him the ball. So I'm excited to see what happens here, but I think that I'm seeing a lot of really good flashes from Ashton Genty, who's a guy that can get you 3 to 4 yards of carry, despite the fact that their offensive line is non-existent.
All right, next guy, boom or bust on Cam Ward, 0-4 through his first 4 games as starting quarterback.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I don't see it with him. I mean, he has had one of the worst QBRs in the history of the NFL, like I said, through his first 4 games. He has no one to throw to. He has no offensive line to protect him. But this is how quarterbacks lose confidence, and this is how rookie quarterbacks go from being really highly touted prospects to guys that are out of a starting job in 2 to 3 years. I don't see him as being the answer.
Do you think that it's a system problem?
Certainly.
Or do you think that it's a Cam Ward problem?
I think it's more so a system problem. I think that you could put any offensive player behind that offensive line and they would not be able to perform well. But that being said, if you're a veteran quarterback and you go into that situation, you can come out of it being like, oh, I'm a vet. I've done this before. I know what I'm doing. I'll be okay. Cam Ward has never lost like this in his life. And at the same time, he has kind of taken it on the chin. He's been like, we've been playing really poorly. We're going to step it up as it goes on. But I just simply don't see it for this Tennessee Titans team.
All right. Teteroa McMillan.
I think this guy's good.
18 receptions, 280 yards.
No touchdowns, which is the biggest concern with him. But he's looked great. He's looked really good. And the guy who's throwing him the ball is Bryce Young. And he's missing a lot of his targets. I don't know if you saw the game. I mean, obviously you watched the Patriots game. I did too, right? But he was going against Christian Gonzalez, who's a top, 10, 3, 5 cornerback in the NFL when he's fully healthy. And he was getting to his spots, I felt like. I think that there is a ton of potential with him. And despite the fact that Emeka Egbuka has probably been the best receiver in the NFL draft so far with Baker Mayfield throwing him the ball, Teteroa McMillan has shown me a ton of flashes to say he's going to be a top 1 receiver on a team someday.
Yeah, and that's
if
the
he's
next
not
guy
already.
That's the next guy. Well, he is already. That's the next guy I was going to go to. In my opinion, the person who's kind of shined the most out of this draft, Emeka Egbuka.
Yep. I think he's been a huge bright spot for a team that has 2 really aging receivers in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. And I mean, this is the future of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is an Ohio State guy. Nonetheless, these are the best receivers in the draft right now. Is Ohio State wide receiver U? Is it LSU? That's kind of the question that's been going back and forth. The answer right now is, I think, Ohio State. Emeka Egbuka looks fantastic, and I'm excited to see what happens in Tampa Bay because, bro, they have so many weapons. They have so many weapons when they're all healthy.
Ooh, but I like LSU, Al. Brian Thomas and Jamar Chase. You had Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry. Maybe we're going out
Justin
of
Jefferson.
LSU. Yeah, into those are 3 of the top 10 receivers in the NFL right there.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. I mean, Ohio State has Terry McLaurin,
Chris
Garrett
Olave,
Wilson, Chris Olave, Mika
Jackson
Buka,
Smith and
Michael
Jigba.
Thomas, JS. Okay, it's Ohio State. It's Ohio State. It is. It is. Yeah.
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, all right. It's Ohio State. All right, let's move on here.
Yeah, I mean, look, we touched on it a little bit earlier today in this episode. One of the best games that I have ever watched in the NFL regular season happened on Sunday night, and it was between the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers, a 40-40 tie in overtime. Do you think football games should be able to end in ties? Regular
Yes.
season or not? You do.
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Break it down, because I honestly don't understand it. I think that is a really dumb rule. I think if you asked everybody on the field that day, would they rather have a tie or a win or a loss, they would all say win or loss.
I think under the current format, if the question is would I rather see the NFL overtime rules or the NFL adopt college football rules and never have a loser, my answer is I'd rather keep the ties than go to the NCAA format. But that isn't your question. So I guess to answer your question, maybe my answer is no. But I think if it takes you 70 minutes to win a football game, you probably don't deserve to win the football.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about those overtime rules then, because you were just touching about it. NFL overtime rules versus college football overtime rules. First, give me a breakdown of both of them, and then tell me why you don't think college football works for the NFL.
So the NFL overtime rules, it's a 10-minute half, which I personally don't agree with. They went from 15 to 10 probably 10 years ago.
Yep.
I think it should still be 15 minutes. Let them have a full quarter and figure it out. But one team gets to possess the ball. The other team gets to possess the ball after. And if they match or go ahead of the score that the first team had, then they win the football game. And if not, then you keep playing until you have a winner. After each team has a possession, first team to score wins. I think that's a lot of freedom. First of all, I think it's really hard to tie a football game, especially when it's as high scoring as that Cowboys versus
that's
Packers
definitely
game
true.
was.
Yep.
I think both teams had about 5 chances where they could have won the football game and neither one could.
Right.
So if you're tying in an NFL game, it's which team doesn't want to win more. And if the case is both of them, then you tie. But that's very rarely the case. And we have a tie once every other year, pretty much. So, like, it clearly doesn't happen all that often, which means that when it does, something super strange has to happen. And I agree with that.
Right.
I'm sorry. The college football overtime rules are, I don't really know them that well. I'm pretty sure that teams just start each possession on the 25-yard line and you go until one team gets a stop. Not a huge fan of that in the NFL. I like it in college because college is fun. It's exciting. And it's also special to college. That is the NCAA overtime rule.
Right.
It's different in the NFL.
Right.
I think it's fun to keep it there. I don't think professionals should have a game decided in a way like that. You can't really tell which team is the better team from the 25-yard line and you just really can't. So for me, I would rather see them keep the overtime rules. I don't understand why you went to 10 minutes, but 15 minutes, 10 minutes should be enough to decide who wins a game. And if it's not, then play double overtime and keep them on the field.
Okay.
If you don't want to have a tie.
And a second question is, do you like the rule that if both teams kick a field goal, the next team to score wins the game outright? Or would you like to see them play the entire 10-minute period out?
No. I like that the next team wins the game outright. It's golden goal, right? First team to score. If they go down and they score, then they beat your defense. You guys had, at that point, 2 chances to stop them and give your offense the ball, and you couldn't do it twice. You deserve to lose.
Fair. It's not a common opinion, to be honest with you, but it is an opinion that I agree with. I think that
if you've been watching football your whole life, I feel like you would probably feel the same way, and I never played football, so maybe that's the piece that I'm missing, right? But I think that in order to stay pure to the way that the game's been played, you would have to do that. And this conversation only comes up when there's like a crazy overtime tie. Like it just doesn't happen all that often. So when it does, you shouldn't When it's not happening is the time where you should be like, okay, we need to make a change. But when it happens and there's these cases where certain things happen, it's not the right time to make a complaint about it.
Okay. All right. I don't necessarily disagree. And that brings us to the most fun part of the day. It's picks time.
And
Let's
Alex,
do it.
to be honest with you, let's go 1-4 again and not learn a thing. I don't really care how you do, to be honest, as long as it's on par or worse than with how I've done, which so far has been the case and probably won't be after this week.
Yeah, we were really bad this past week, and that's okay. That's what we do. Sometimes we just don't pick the right teams. This week I have a feeling, which is what I said last week, that I'm going to go 5-0, and here we go. We're at it again. Because I won 2 weeks ago, I get to pick first because we tied last week. That means that I have first overall pick.
Still winning 9-8.
You are still winning
after 4
still
weeks.
winning on the season. So I mean, I have
closer every week.
I have a little bit of time to make this up here. I mean, going into week 5, I think that there are a bunch of question marks on the table. 2 teams that have massive question marks going into this week are the Ravens and the Houston Texans. But that being said, I think the Ravens are a better team, and I cannot believe that they are favored, or that Houston is favored to win this game. So I'm going to take the Ravens plus 2.5 over Houston. I think the Ravens win this game outright.
I think, to be honest with you, it comes down to you not doing your research. I don't think Lamar Jackson plays this week. I think that's
a very big question. Yeah,
now,
but that being said,
I'm actually almost positive that he's not playing this week, and I think they've already said that. So that's why they are plus 2.5 against Houston.
They're still going to win. They're still going to win.
Who's their backup? Tyler Huntley? It's got to be Tyler Huntley, right? Hold on.
It's 2 teams with their backs against the wall here.
It's Cooper Rush.
Oh, yeah, it is. Oh, yeah, it's rush ball, dude.
Yeah, that's he could do it.
So we'll see what happens there. He could do it. He could do it. Derrick Henry's going to get the ball 40 times. It's going to be awesome. I think they're going to win this game.
If you're the Texans and you lose this game, you should probably clear house.
Yeah, a lot of questions in that.
All right, my first pick, huge spread. But I still like it.
Okay.
I'm going to take the Lions minus 10.5 over the Bengals. I think the Bengals have looked like garbage over the past 2 weeks, and they've lost to 2 teams that are, let's admit it, way worse than the Lions by more than 10 points. Now, I understand both those teams have phenomenal defenses, but I think the Lions get it done. I think they get it done by more than 10.
All right. 10 points is a big spread for a team that hasn't necessarily been dominant, but that being said, the Bengals look so bad that I don't really necessarily think that's a bad pick.
The Lions put up 52 points 2 weeks ago.
I know. They did, which is great. They're playing a better defense this week. The fact of the matter...
They're playing the Bengals. That's the worst defense in the NFL.
No way.
But the Bengals are up there with the worst defense in the NFL.
Okay, fair enough. I don't know if they win by 10 points. 10 points is a lot of points that you're giving the Lions. So that's a game that feels like a trap game to me. I don't necessarily love that pick. This pick I do really like. I have the Cowboys minus 2.5 over the Jets. The Jets have looked completely out of sorts, and it feels like the Cowboys are playing decently good football, despite the fact that their defense is chopped cheese. Their offense is really good. And look, when Dak Prescott plays good football, they have enough receivers to make plays. So I think this Cowboys team is hot coming into this week offensively, and they're going to steamroll the Jets.
Yeah, it's a good pick. And they don't even have CeeDee Lamb back yet, but George Pickens is looking like a wide receiver 1. So when he comes back, I mean, imagine the damage that their offense is going to do with
CeeDee,
2 Pro Bowl receivers. It's going to be great.
Yep.
I like the Colts. I like them a lot. A lot of their games this year have been very close.
Yeah.
The Raiders have also played a lot of pretty close games this year. I mean, when they've had success, it's been close.
Mm-hmm.
I think 6.5 is a lot for the Colts to beat the Raiders by. I got the Raiders plus 6.5.
You think the Colts are going to win?
I think the Colts are going to win, but I am taking Raiders plus 6.5 because I think that they will win by less than 7.
Okay. Yeah, good pick. Look, if there's ever a team in the NFL that just completely falls on its face time and time again when they have a lead, it's the Los Angeles Chargers.
It is.
They were up 3-0 on 3 division rivals in the AFC West, in the AFC West. And then they lose to the Giants on Sunday football, like for no reason, or Monday Night Football, I think. Like that's a game that you have to win if you're the Los Angeles Chargers. That's the fact of it. This Commanders team is getting Jaden Daniels back this weekend after having Marcus Mariota at the helm for 2 weeks, who didn't play awful football. He played one really good game and one pretty bad game.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think that the Commanders are a team that will probably come back and be pretty good if Jaden Daniels can start to figure it out and stay healthy. I like them plus 2.5 over the Chargers, who have continually, been a team that likes to slip up at this time when they have a lead. And Kansas City's playing this week in a game that they should win. So I don't know. We'll see what happens in the AFC West.
That's a ballsy pick, and I got a lot of respect for it. I'm kind of making a ballsy pick too here. Seahawks and Bucks was one that we considered for game of the week.
Yep.
But it just didn't quite feel like it was good enough. I think both these teams are pretty good. I think the Bucks are better, and they're plus 3.5. I think they win the game outright. So I have Bucks plus 3.5 in Seattle.
Okay.
But I still
I
think
like
they
that
get it
pick
done.
too. Yeah, I like that pick. You just alluded to it a little bit. There is no game of the week this week. There just isn't. There just
The
isn't.
game of the week is playoff baseball, whatever game is on.
Correct. Which we'll talk about the next time that we're on here, which probably will be later this week, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
But that means that we get to do 2 not game of the weeks because these games suck. So we have 2 games that you can just continually put to the end of your the quad box. Don't even put it in there if you're building your quad box.
These on Red Zone once.
Nope.
Not once.
Nope. Nor should you, because these games are going to be in the teens when it comes to scoring here. Not game of the week 1. Now, this game I actually do think is a little bit interesting because Jackson Dart is starting at quarterback for the New York Giants. If you care at all about the Giants, maybe you'll watch this game. I know no Saints fan is going to watch this game. It's Giants at the Saints. Jack, tell me, who is going to win, the New York Giants or the New Orleans Saints at home? Spencer Rattler versus Jackson Dart. This is a game that you write home about.
Better.
Everybody's super excited.
NFL shit. For me, honestly, I think the Saints played pretty well against the Bills last week. They were actually flirting with taking a lead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And they had a touchdown review that would have tied the game at 24, and then the Bills just kind of ran away with it at the end. I think the Saints might be one of those teams that are kind of frisky, but still ass. I think they're ass, but I think the Giants are going to win, but I think it might be a close game.
Okay, so you're taking the Giants here.
I got the Giants here.
That's too bad, because I thought you were going to go with the fun pick of the Saints, which means that that's up to me now. I'm going to take the Saints here. I'm a fun pick guy.
It burns you. It burns you every week.
I'm a fun pick guy. I could see Spencer Rattler getting it done. I could see Jackson Dart coming out and just having an absolute stinker this week after playing well week 1. So, not week 1, week 4. Not game of the week 2. Dolphins at Panthers. Now, this is another bad one. The Dolphins got their first win on Monday Night Football. This is a quick turnaround for them. They shouldn't have beat the Jets, in my opinion, but they did. Anyways, the Panthers here, a team that obviously is coming off a massive loss to the New England Patriots. They look like a shell of themselves from week 4 when they beat the Atlanta Falcons. There are a lot of questions with this team overall. That being said, I think the Panthers win. Mike McDaniel is going on the road again. He's playing another team away from home. That's not his forte. He can't win on the road for some reason, and we're still counting down the weeks until he gets fired. So I have the Panthers here. And a Tyreek Hill-less Dolphins team just probably isn't going to be all that successful.
Which, by the way, his injury this week was one of the worst I've ever seen in football.
Yeah, it was rough.
It was rough. Pretty grim, and he was smiling in the... he was smiling on the car and in the ambulance and in the hospital.
He was excited to be done.
If a guy is excited to bend his knee at a 90-degree angle to not have to play for your team, you got serious problems. I'm taking the Panthers too. The only question I'm left with is Tyreek Hill going to slide into the CTE spotlight, or is Antonio Brown going to keep that for himself? I think that's a developing story moving forward. I think the Panthers are one of those teams that are going to win on random weeks and lose against teams that they should probably compete with. But I think that this week they are going to beat the Dolphins.
All right. I agree with you. Here we go. Another week of NFL picks. Will we be back here saying that we're 1-4 next week? I really hope not.
Absolutely.
But it's probably going to happen. Yeah. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back next week. As always, thank you for listening. This has been The Corner Office, and I'm Jack Byrne.
Alex Penders. Go Red Sox.
Go Sox, baby.